Committee on Oversight and Government Reform will come to order, and without objection, the Chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. Today's hearing is about the IRS and the targeting that has happened there. We have had updates from the Inspector General's office, and we are here for another such update. We appreciate Mr. George, Mr. Camus for being here with us. And as we start this hearing, I'd like to walk through why we're here at this particular time. There was targeting of people who were trying to exercise their First Amendment rights. This was done because of their political beliefs. Dave Camp and the Ways and Means Committee did some exceptional work unearthing this, talking to then the IRS Commissioner, Mr. Schulman, about this. He had assured the committee, assured the Congress, which when you talk to Congress, you're talking to the American people, that none of this targeting had ever occurred. That's when the Inspector General's office started to get involved, and they started to look at it. Later, they came back and provided a report, and that report happened in, I believe, 2013. Now, keep in mind, when we had this information going on, there was a preservation order that was put in place, asking and requiring the IRS to preserve these documents. Chairman Issa, then the chairman of the Oversight and Government Reform Committee in August of 2013, issued a subpoena asking for this information and these documents. But then you move forward, and this is where it just sort of starts to get unbelievable. It stretches the imagination beyond comparison. And we're supposed to believe this wide array of facts just happen to come together and in such an odd and peculiar way. Again, remember, the IRS commissioner said, quote, "There's absolutely no targeting," end quote. Now, when this first came to light, the president was actually very good on this topic. He said that he would work with Congress, and then somehow magically concluded, even though the Department of Justice had not completed their investigation, the Inspector General had not concluded their investigation, the United States Congress had not concluded an investigation, either in the House or the Senate, but somehow magically the president came to the conclusion that there was, quote, not even a, quote, smidgen of corruption. Now, interesting thing about that timing, that happened to be Super Bowl Sunday. So Super Bowl Sunday in 2014, the president makes this comment. We have heard from an IRS official where she said, "That's the exact same day that I remember looking and realizing that there were some emails missing." So this thing's going on for years. It's just coincidental that the president's on national television and she says and has told us that, oops, there's some emails missing. Again, remember, for 10 months there was a preservation order in place. For 7 months there was a subpoena in place. We have been assured multiple times by the IRS that they were doing everything, bending over backwards, giving us all kinds of stats and metrics about how many emails and how many people were working hard on this. But the one thing we wanted to have, evidence, to let the facts take us wherever they may be, that one thing just went missing the exact same time, say just within hours of the president making that comment. But what we're going to hear today makes it even more stunning, because what the Inspector General has evidently learned is that that evidence on that day that the president said that, on the day that the Inspector General, or the day that the IRS person said there were missing emails, they weren't missing at that point. They weren't destroyed. What we're going to hear from the Inspector General's office today is that those emails were destroyed 30 days later. February 4th, Super Bowl Sunday, or the second Super Bowl Sunday, pardon me. They're missing, but they weren't missing. They got destroyed just about 30 days later. 22 days after that, the IRS commissioner, on March 26th, I remember because it's my birthday, IRS commissioner comes here and testifies and tells us Essentially that they have the emails, it's going to take years to provide them, but they will get us those emails. And a direct question that I had asked him. But they had destroyed them 22 days prior. They knew that there was a problem with it back in February, supposedly. And it wasn't until June that the IRS then confirmed or buried in the back of a letter to the United States Senate, to Senator Orrin Hatch's committee, Senator Wyden's committee, that, oops, we think there's a problem with the emails. Then the Inspector General, that catches their attention. So what do? They put their team together and they say, you know what, let's go see if we can find those emails. Because remember, at this point, the IRS has had years to do it, and they couldn't find them. They think there's a problem. The Inspector General's office puts a team together, and within about 2 weeks, they go and find them. They show up at this so-called cage and go ask and go look for these emails. Nope, they've been sitting there the whole time. Has anything ever happened to those? No, nobody even asked us for them. That's the testimony we heard in a previous hearing. And we're supposed to believe all this in the context of an FBI investigation that's led by a max-out donor to the Obama administration, a contempt from Lois Lerner, the House of Representatives, in a very unprecedented, it doesn't happen very often around here, holds Lois Lerner in contempt. A statute that says they shall refer that to the grand jury. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia looks at that for 10 months and 2 days or so, roughly, before Mr. Mason steps away from that job, says, you know what, we just think it shouldn't be referred. Even though the statute says it shall, and that is a potential hearing and maybe something that we will look at it later. But part of what we're going to find today is that there are some 24,000 emails, potential emails, that were destroyed. It's a destruction of evidence. We want to pursue the facts. I know there are Democrats on the other side of the line that say, on the other side of the aisle, say, hey, there's nothing here, let's move on, it's no big deal. Let the evidence speak. But when there's a destruction of evidence, that goes to a whole nother level. One of the things we're going to hear from the Inspector General today is that 5 of the 6 sources where they could find this email, the IRS didn't even look. And yet we have heard multiple testimonies from the IRS commissioner saying, oh, we're working so hard, we got all these people, we're spending millions of dollars, it's taking all these resources. They didn't even look in the most obvious places, like her phone. It just, you add this all in combination, it just defies any sense of logic. It gets to the point where it truly gets to be unbelievable. Somebody has to be held accountable. Imagine if this was all reversed, right? Imagine if you were on the receiving end of an inquiry from the IRS, and they asked you for documents, and they issued you a subpoena, and you destroyed the evidence, and you had that evidence. What would happen to you? You would be prosecuted to the fullest. You'd end up in jail. You probably should. That's what we're dealing with here. This should have been disposed of a long time ago. But we have been misled. There has been evidence that has been destroyed. And so we appreciate this hearing today. These 2 men who are here before us have done some exceptional work. They're supported by a great number of people on their staff who do very important, impartial work. And we count on their opinions. Let me be fair in this conclusion. Part of what they're going to say today is they have found no evidence that this was done willfully, that this was some purposeful direction from any one person, whether it be the White House or below. Understood. But the bottom line is they had the evidence, there was a preservation order in place, there was a subpoena in place, and that evidence was destroyed. We're going to hear this testimony. My understanding is next week they're going to issue a rather lengthy report. We look forward to seeing that report. Given that next week is the 4th of July recess, we thought it appropriate to bring them before us here to get their verbal comments and opportunity to question them. We look forward to hearing and reading the report in its totality, and then we're going to have to figure out a way moving forward. But people need to be held accountable, and we are going to get to the truth. With that, I'm going to yield back and recognize our ranking member, Mr. Cummings.